Welcome to What's New in Autodesk Construction Cloud with our presenter today, our Building Solutions Team Manager, Mr. Vince Daniele. So Vince, I'm going to go ahead and hand the floor over to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Lori, as always, and welcome everyone to today's session. As Lori mentioned, my name is Vince Daniele, and I am our Construction Team Manager in our Building Solutions division here at IMAGINiT. I've been with IMAGINiT for 14 years, so been supporting solutions, the desktop solutions, and now really primarily focused on the cloud solutions. I'm based out of Detroit, Michigan, and without spending too much time about myself, I want to get into the content today because there is a lot to cover. So with that, a couple of things I wanted to lead into with the presentation. So if we think about, or if we talk about the Autodesk Construction Cloud in its entirety, it's really all of these different solutions. My primary focus just on the sheer volume of different feature updates that have occurred within the last 6 to 12 months. My focus is really going to be on the main products that are supported, kind of the native products of the Autodesk Construction Cloud, and less on some of the ancillary or more specifically tactically focused products. So really the focus here is going to be on BIM Collaborate and BIM Collaborate Pro, Autodesk Build, and Autodesk Docs, and any real big platform, kind of general platform or account admin updates. So those three primaries, and I have divided the presentation up, so hopefully it's pretty clear if you don't have one product or another, what you will have access to in these feature updates based on your licensing. One thing I do want to point out, so unlike our desktop solutions where we have our big yearly releases, the Autodesk Construction Cloud, there are updates throughout each year. In that update cadence, that update schedule, usually we see new feature releases every 2 months, and typically those occur the third week of each of those months. Something to help you kind of keep track of or maintain updates or know what has been updated outside of these great webinars that our marketing team puts together. There is a public roadmap that Autodesk releases, and it gives you insight into any in-progress feature updates and then links to any recent releases. So just really quick, I wanted to click the link here and just show everyone what that looks like. So you'll see that anything that is in progress, and they've done a good job of dividing this up sort of by discipline or by, I guess, product specific areas. But we can see here that maybe these things haven't been released, but they are in the works. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we'll see these updates in the next monthly release, but probably within 6 to 12 months, these are the features that will be rolled out during those, not bi-monthly, but every 2-month releases for features that we see in the ACC. And what's great about this too is it identifies the different products that these in development features affect. Beyond that, at the bottom of the page here on the public roadmap, there are blogs for those different monthly or 2-month releases. So if you wanted to read specifically over all of the things, and I will highlight a lot of the last 2 releases within this presentation, but if there's something that I touched on briefly and you wanted to get more detail, or maybe something that I didn't feel like was a major key feature, I couldn't pack it into this session today, just read the blogs. The blogs have all of the different updates and information, starting with the platform and then going through Autodesk Docs. So they really do a good job of highlighting everything that is released, and you will find additional links to support the feature releases and screen caps that you'll find in my presentation today. But it does do a good job of describing all of the major things and some of maybe the minor release updates within that monthly release. So I like to point that out. And Lori, actually what I'll do is I'll maybe it'll make it easier for everyone. I know I have the hyperlink here in my PowerPoint, but let me copy this if I'm able to. Oops. Let's see if I can copy it from this side. We can copy and paste this link into the chat. So hold on one sec. Let me go into my actual PowerPoint and copy this. So everyone has, I would recommend if you are a frequent user of ACC that you bookmark this. So 1 second. Sorry, I should have thought about this prior to getting into it, but I will throw. And Lori, I think I can send this in the chat. There we go. All right, there it is. So everyone should have a copy through that public roadmap if you don't have it already. But again, highly recommend bookmarking that so you can keep up to date on any potential feature updates that are coming. And if you need to review in March, or I'm sorry, in May of this, it's not May yet, but May there will be another release. So we'll probably get another blog post towards the end of May highlighting all of the feature releases that I'm not covering today. Okay. Okay. So in today's presentation, like I said, I'm going to break this down into the major areas of the Autodesk Construction Cloud. First, I'll cover the platform updates that I feel like are the most important ones that have come out recently. Then I'll go through Autodesk Docs, so file management, document management, BIM Collaborate Pro, which is really the coordination and Revit work sharing, and then Autodesk Build, which is primarily the construction management, project management piece of the Autodesk Construction Cloud. In order to keep this within the parameters of the presentation, I couldn't include every single update from the past year, but I did want to focus on the key updates that were released, or what we find our clients, our customers, really finding value in these particular updates. All right, so with that, with the Autodesk platform, really the 5 key feature updates that I wanted to cover. The first one's pretty quick, but that is the custom integrations that are found in your account admin, the ability to rename roles globally within your account throughout all of your projects. Project admin activity log, a really good one and one that was heavily requested by customers. Project list improvements and new member add options. So I will go through each one of these in detail. I have slides to support all of these for each different module of the ACC, starting with our custom integrations. If you were a BIM 360 user and you were an account admin in BIM 360, you're probably already familiar with the custom integrations tab. They've basically migrated that same function over into the ACC. So there are different third-party client integrations that really have to be linked to your ACC account. Well, in the past, we could only access those through BIM 360 admin. Now this is available directly in the unified platform account admin. One thing that we run into sometimes with these custom integrations is, depending on these URLs, you'll really need to reference whatever your third-party client, like a big one that we've seen recently, Smart Sheets or Open Space is being utilized as an integration. There are good help documents in those third-party providers that will explain the URLs and the client IDs that you need to input to create these integrations. So there's usually good documentation to support how those integrations are set up for you within your account. But again, this isn't really anything new, but it is now available in the unified platform, so you can access it directly through the new interface rather than having to go through BIM 360 admin. And just this second slide just shows some of the detail of the integration information. So if you need to edit this, you just click the ellipsis and you can edit the account IDs and all of the things that you have to plug in for that integration to work. This one is pretty cool. Historically, we were not able to, if we were to edit a role that was already part of a project or a project template, it would not update all active projects. But now as the account admin, if we change a role, and if you're aware of how roles work in ACC, roles are extremely important because they can lock in our permissions to our project templates. So if we, for any reason, have a weird name, or if we want to update naming conventions to our roles, we can do that from account admin, and that will update to all projects in the account. One thing I should point out, you're probably already aware of this if you're managing roles, but you cannot duplicate role names. You can only have one role, which makes sense. You wouldn't want to create that confusion of having the same role name with different, I suppose, different standards within your different projects. And then the project admin activity log. This one is very, very cool. And like I mentioned before, highly requested from customers. So project admin, so this does not require account admin access level, but the project admins now have an activity tool when they're viewing a project setting. So if you go into your project admin through the project picker, you now have an activity button, which will allow you to view the activity feed for that entire project. I don't believe we can export that out yet as a report from that activity from project admin. If you wanted specific activity exported, you'll have to go into the different tools of this specific product. So for example, for build, if we wanted to export our activity log for RFIs, then we can export that directly, or with issues, etc. But this does give us some insight and information. And I don't know why I pulled a bad screenshot of this, but if I just jump into, I didn't plan on demoing anything live, but realizing that I don't have a great screenshot there, I'll just show you under project admin within my project. You have that activity feed on all things related to the project, not just a specific module or tool within build. So we can see when people are actively participating in the model and the changes that they make. So there's a lot of information here. We are able to filter this to some extent based on the date of the activity or the member of the activity. So if I go to my name here, I can filter this list down. Anything that I did in particular, and I don't know, it's still in beta, so maybe some of this information isn't being captured, but I would assume that we'll have a pretty detailed report of activity within our projects. So you can see that, what was this? Yesterday, I deleted a document and then I restored it. So it's just showing some good information there if you want to track down who's doing what, or if you're trying to chase down any historic data entry within your project. And like I mentioned, you can filter that down by a date range. So pretty cool stuff there. It will only show from the last 12 months currently. So who knows? Oh, that's why it didn't have a good screenshot, because it's an embedded video. So I could have just clicked the play button, but hey, I was able to show it live. All right. Now this last feature, I think, for the platform releases that I wanted to highlight, this has come up occasionally through our homepage, our project homepage. So this is to the individual user, the projects that you're invited to. We now have the ability to set a quick access product. So when we click on a particular project, it takes us directly to whatever homepage or whatever quick access page we set. So for example, if I am an executive member of my account and I just want to jump to the project insights page for a particular project, we can mark that as the quick access, basically the home page when we click on that project. If we're more involved in the, say, the build side, we want to get to build home instead of the overall insights of the project, then we can set that quick access to that product specifically. So it's just a way for us to make the navigation when we go and jump between different projects is taking us right to the spot or the place within the project that we really need to manage. And then this one might not seem like a big deal, but truthfully, working with a lot of different customers, when we add people to projects, and primarily this is for people that are new to Autodesk, when you add someone's email address, and again, this is probably primarily on the build side, because with account-based build, we can invite external participants into our projects via an unlimited user license. But say we invited a subcontractor and they've never created an Autodesk ID. By default, if they just click the link and join the project with the default, essentially the placeholders for their first name and last name, a lot of times it will just use whatever the leading name of their email is, and it will repeat it for both the first name and last name. This add project members allows us to recommend what their first name and last name is. So when they accept that invitation and they create their Autodesk user ID, it will auto-populate with whatever names we suggest there, or they can overwrite them when they create their Autodesk ID. But this will, once they create that ID, their name will show up properly within our account and within our projects, where before we were getting a lot of funky stuff just based on the name of their email. Like it might be, in my case, Daniele, and it wouldn't look good, and it doesn't give us a nice clean member directory for our projects. So we can enter in the first name and last name, the company, the role, and then there are different access levels for the project, so that can be set. The traditional format allowed us to do that too, but this is just a little bit more of a cleaned up interface. And if you need to import to this list, you can always copy and paste multiple email addresses into that field box at the top, and it will show them. Once you hit enter, it will show that a preview of that list before you send them the invitation. So it's kind of nice. You can preview that out. You can see how they're going to be invited to your projects before you send those invitations. Okay, so those were, I suppose, the major platform releases that I wanted to cover. And I see that we're already 20 minutes in, so I better get moving here. For Autodesk Docs, some major updates for the document management platform. We are able to search the content of multi-page PDFs directly, which is great. It's leaning on the OCR technology, optical character recognition, to search those massive PDFs for key text. Markup promotion, I'll explain this when I show the slide. We have integrated or created a specifications tool for uploading your specs directly to Autodesk Docs. It does not require build, it does not require auto specs, and essentially that's a bookmarked nice version of the spec that we can update and search. Autodesk Docs and AutoCAD markup integration. So I should have mentioned here, this is for AutoCAD 2025, but there's some really nice integrations to markups via the cloud to push back directly to your CAD DWGs. I already highlighted the new member add options. So yeah, we don't need the mobile side toolbar improvements. So this is something that we can mark up in web. We wanted improvements in mobile. We've rolled those out. There is an update to the mobile model viewer. It's still in beta, but there's been some great feedback about that feature release. And then some Power BI template improvements if you're working with data connector and utilizing some of your Power BI templates. So for more detail on this, the search multi-page PDFs, essentially when you open up a PDF, in the search icon in the top right corner of that view, you're able to search a text string or content, and it will highlight within each page where it found that text. So if you're not already aware of this, when you upload PDFs to the ACC, not only are you uploading the document and making it available to view, but it's also using OCR to find all of the text, all of that vector-based text within the document. And I have been told, and I've seen this with sheets, but it will also support some raster images, but the raster-based OCR isn't always as accurate as a vector-based text file. So if you're scanning a field form to an image and uploading it, I haven't tested this, but in theory, it's supposed to still be able to search those documents. But definitely, if we publish PDFs directly from Word or from AutoCAD or whatever vector-based program, it will do a very good job of picking up the content of those documents and make it searchable. And you can search this even outside of the document. So in Docs, in the main page, when you go to search, there's just a little text box to search content, and it will review within that folder. It'll open up the document and show you where it found that text. So you're probably familiar with this in Sheets already, but it does work now for multi-page PDFs within the normal files area. So this one is pretty big, markup promotion improvements. So in the past, we would get, especially with documents in files, we would get some sporadic behavior when we upload a new document version over the top of an old one. Sometimes it would carry through our issues, markups, and sometimes it wouldn't. Autodesk has improved this. So any markups that you create, say in V1 of the document, and that are published to the document, when we upload a V2 version 2 of that document, those issues and markups will update or will show in version 2, which if you think about it, if we're using issues to track changes to our documents or suggest changes to our documents, we want to verify that those markups and those issues have been actually applied to that update to the document. Well, if we're not carrying the markups forward, then if we're not promoting those markups, it's very difficult. We kind of have to go back to the old version, view it, jump to the new version. Well, now because those markups will exist in that updated version of the document, we can quickly go through and review any of those issues that we can deem as closed issues and delete any markups associated with them. This does apply to, I should read the text here. This applies to files copied manually existing, so that's overwriting, or via a bridge folder automation. This, important note, this does not bridge the markups between the different projects, and that's on purpose. We don't necessarily want to publish any of our internal markups to any external companies or external partners. So your markups are still maintained within the project that they're created, but it does allow you to synchronize the versions via the folder automation. So this is a pretty big one that came out recently, the specifications tool. If you've used AutoSpecs, it's kind of similar to the process of setting up your smart register or utilizing smart register for your spec. But without having access to AutoSpecs, we didn't really have a tool or a feature that allowed us to quickly bookmark and search a spec in our project. Well, now we do. We can upload a PDF. Again, it uses OCR tech to view the PDF and highlight based on some different formats. So primarily the big one, CSI master format. It will start to divide out our spec document based on division and spec section. From what I found, this works really, really well. There is sometimes when you have pages in the spec that are unspecified, they might not have the specification section number on them. You do have the ability to manually create them or add them to a previous section. So a lot of times it's with blank pages. You'll have to add the blank page to a previous section to clean it up. And you do have to clean up all of the unspecified sections before you can finalize the upload of the spec. But this will allow us to not only do this through the web version, but we can also pull up the spec via the mobile and search content within that spec. And then the AutoCAD markup, there's a little bit of an embedded video in here. So for the AutoCAD integration, we are able to publish our sheets directly to Build, plot them, or not to Autodesk Docs, so we can plot those to our file section in Docs. We can apply markups to those PDFs, and then we can capture the markups and push those back to AutoCAD. So there's a little tool, if you just watch the rest of this video, we're marking up the PDF, capturing the markups. Through the ellipsis, we can sync those markups to AutoCAD, send them to an individual user in our project, and then once we push those out, it will get an email notification that allows them to import those markups directly into their CAD document. So pretty cool stuff there. It does support, I don't know that it does issues, but it definitely will capture the annotation of the markups to those CAD produced or CAD plotted PDFs. This one isn't, it's a good feature update. If you're already aware of how we can mark up with color and copying markups within a sheet via the web, they've essentially just updated that to the mobile. So we're getting the same sorts of features for markups on the mobile that we've already had in the web version. So definitely allows us to colorize, capture, and publish different markups via mobile through your iOS or Android device. I believe Android supported, but they have updated the mobile toolbar to allow more options for your markups. Oh, and I should back up there. One thing I forgot to mention. One of the major things here is in the past when we would set our markups, it was a little fly out from our toolbar on the right. This is more of a heads up display. So with the nature of mobile, we want those things directly at our fingertips where we're marking up the page. So it's just more centric to where you're creating your markups. And we can duplicate those markups on the same page or sheet just using the duplicate button, which is located in the middle of that heads up display. And then finally, this one, they're updating the mobile model viewer so we can actually view live 3D models via mobile. There's been great feedback about this so far. There's improved speeds for uploading your 3D models, sectioning tools. So they're really trying to, again, bring some of those web features directly into mobile. And just let this video play. I don't think it does much more than showing a couple of things with sectioning and then navigating to the 2D views associated to the RVT that's published to the project. But again, they are improving that model viewer where in the past people would complain it was a little bit clunky and very slow. Apparently 5x faster than it was in the previous version of the model viewer. Oh yeah, and I did include update. The 3D issues on mobile is currently, it will roll out. It's currently not supported, so we can't view the pinned issues in the 3D view on the mobile yet. You can do that through the web version, but it is delayed for some reason. And I didn't check recently, so this slide might have been from March. I'm not certain. And then for our Power BI templates, so a lot of these templates, if you're already aware of the Power BI templates that are available in ACC through Account Admin, the data connector, there's a little tab to get to your Power BI templates that Autodesk produces. They have made a lot of improvements or included many more templates, available templates based on updates to the product as a whole, including being able to dashboard meeting minutes. So there's a template available for tracking items and the different content within your meeting minutes. And that's available at both the account and project level report. Beyond that, yeah, some fixes to field quality and control and construction IQ templates. So just some fixes to those templates. If you're already utilizing those templates, might be a good idea to connect the new template to your Power BI. Right, and that I think is it for Autodesk Docs. Now moving into BIM Collaborate Pro. Honestly, there aren't a lot of new feature releases to BIM Collaborate Pro, but the ones that they have released within the past 6 to 12 months have been really good ones. So the Revit issues added, the markup promotion. Maybe I might not have deleted that bullet point from the last one, but the model coordination object table beta, show you some details of that. It's really good. And then the model coordination import object exclusions is also a good thing if you're running clash detection through the cloud. This one is probably one of my favorites that has come out through BIM Collaborate Pro really in the past several years, but that is the ability to install the issues add-in to Revit. I should mention that there is also an issues add-in for Navisworks, and when we create issues, not only within our sheets, but also our 3D model, we can synchronize those back to our Revit project. So markups from issues created from single models and docs, build, and model aggregates will show up in the add-in. View only, I don't know why it's saying that, view only, but users can click on the thumbnail to enlarge. So I guess it's supposed to enlarge the issue detail, but we are able to change the status of issues as they're being updated within the Revit model. So if a project manager creates an issue on the web or the mobile device and it synchronizes back to the project, the end users, the designers can open up the issues add-in to Revit. They can examine the issue. They can navigate directly to the issue by clicking on it. So it will open up that issue, whether it's in a 3D view or on a sheet or a 2D view. And once they make the update and synchronize the change to the Revit model, they are able to change the status of the issue via that issues tool in Revit, and it will update to the project. So same idea from Navisworks. We can capture issues that are created via web or mobile. I guess primarily probably via web for our coordination models, but in Navisworks we have the issues tool where we can navigate to the issues, either mark them as I suppose the different clashes, and then those would also link to Revit to actually update the models to correct them. And it's showing here just another image here, and I think there is a video. Yep. So when an issue is created, again, in a sheet view of the project, and this has to be with Revit. So we've got our published sheets from the Revit file. When an issue is created, it does link here. So we're seeing in Revit, we can navigate through our issues. They show up within our Revit file, and we can review the status of those issues. And you can see you have the same inputs for the issue that you would in the Beyond that, model coordination, this object table just gives us more detail. If we're publishing an NWC and Navisworks model to the cloud, we have more properties and more rules that we can apply to filter these different views. So the object table essentially ties into asset or property information that's stored within Navisworks, and we can sort, filter, and export. If you've ever used Takeoff, this interface is very similar to what Autodesk Takeoff has available, but really just helping us to navigate through the model and hide different objects or create specific rules for filtering the model to see specific elements, but based on the properties that are embedded into those models. And then something you may already be aware of, but with object exclusions, we can create exclusions to exclude specific model objects from clash detection. So if we don't want, say, all of our interior walls to be part of a clash because we know we're not modeling them with the penetrations within the Revit model, we just want it to ignore those clashes, but still be part of our coordinate model views. We can filter down specific categories, and you can use the different properties and parameters to identify how you want to isolate specific objects and exclude them from your clashes. This is still in beta. It will be found or can be found in the settings. So if you go into clashes, in your clash settings, if you're a project admin, you can start to create these different exclusion categories and apply them to specific models. Should point that out too. Yeah, actually good example here. Use the architectural floors instead of the structural floors. So we would want to exclude structural floors probably from the architectural model, I would assume, if they're replicated or duplicated in the Revit model. So excluding flex duct in that example, and it imported that rule in. All right. Now Autodesk Build. There are a lot of updates, and there are plenty more than this. So you can go back to the link that I shared earlier to see all of the different feature updates. I identified probably the most major ones within the past 6 months. And you'll see that with correspondence, there are a lot of slides to support updates to email correspondence. In supporting Build over the last few years, one of the major complaints about Build is that it didn't tie to email. Well, within the last year, email correspondence was rolled out to the public, and they have been constantly making updates to features and the way that correspondence works. So I'll cover all of the updates to email correspondence. Additional fields and RFI types, we can access those through mobile. Different submittal updates, direct link to detail reports and RFI notifications from your email. And then one of the more recent ones here, the work plan updates to the schedule tools within Build, and how we can view mapped assets and statuses in 3D and 2D within our projects. So starting with the first page for correspondence, and there are several. Number one, we can create different correspondence types. So you do have the ability now, if you're familiar with correspondence in the past, we only had the general correspondence category and we could not add to that. So it just showed up as G Core. If we want to organize and sort emails in our projects or send emails from our projects and categorize them, we can create these different correspondence types. So here are some examples. And if we make something inactive, it will just remove it from a drop-down list. It will still categorize something with the initials, but it will not be, just like when issue types are inactive, it just won't give the general user the ability to pick an inactive type. So really good for categorizing different types, and then we can use filters to filter down to those different correspondence types. Save correspondence attachments to files. So this is another good feature. If we happen to forward or attach emails or attach attachments to an email and forward it to our project, we now have the ability to save all of those documents directly to files within the project. This is huge. Well, maybe it's not huge, but it definitely eliminates some of the frustration and added steps. Before, we have to download a file like you traditionally would to your computer or your downloads folder, and then you would have to manually move that file into the files area of your project. Now we have the ability to save all of these files, all of these attachments to a specific folder or specific folders within the files area of Docs or Build. It's your project folders. And obviously, it probably is pretty self-explanatory, but those that have permission to the folder will be able to see the file. Obviously, if you don't have permission to a file and an attachment is saved to a folder that you don't have permission to, then you're not going to be able to access it. One thing that we've worked with a lot of construction administration clients on recently, when you're working with GCs that are forwarding documents to you via email and email attachments, if we forward those to our projects, say it's an incoming RFI request from the GC or an incoming submittal request from the GC, it's really nice, and you could set up your folders in the project to have just a folder called incoming submittals, and you can save those attachments directly to that file, that folder location in the project. And then beyond that, and I think one of my other slides will show this, but you can actually create an RFI directly from email correspondence. If a submittal is already there, you can attach the attachments to it and tie your correspondence to it. So it's just really connecting all of this communication, all of this data, so that it's easy to find these references, whether you open up the RFI and you want to reference back to the email, or if you open the email and you want to reference forward to the RFI, you have all of the attachments listed and everything is linked nicely, and you can get around your projects very quickly. You are able to, so this probably goes without saying, but once the file is in a folder, you are able to share the attachments via Bridge. So if you're working with a consultant that does have ACC and maybe they're supporting their own account and need to get those documents, then obviously you're able to share those documents to them via Bridge between your accounts, as long as you have those folders synchronized. Oh, this is a big update. So we can create correspondence. We can send correspondence instead of to an individual within the project or an external member individually via email. We are able to send emails to, I call them in Autodesk, they're roles, but really it's like sending an email group. So if I wanted to inform all of my architects with one message, I can pick that role, and anyone in the project that has the role of architect will be included in that correspondence email. So we can see here, even in the screenshot, we've got 22 contractor members. If we want to send out a mass email to all of our contractors, we could do that just by selecting the role, and anyone who is assigned a contractor will get that message. Same goes for company. So if you have companies set up within the project, anyone that belongs to a specific company, you're just basically making an email group that can be used directly from this utility. And you can search and filter based on roles or companies within the correspondence module. I like this one a lot. So we're able to add references directly to correspondence at creation. We weren't able to do this before. So if we were really creating an email, we could manually apply attachments to that through correspondence, but we were not able to actually add the references available in our project directly to that correspondence. So sure, you'd be able to go add attachment, pick a file, and associate it to the email that you're generating from build. Now we can add all of these different reference types directly to the email that we're creating from the project. So in addition to just normal file attachments, now we can attach all of the submittal information or photos, asset information directly to that email that we're sending out of build. And if you weren't already aware of this, you can update the status of your email. So if it's initially when the email is created, it's open, but if it's something that's in process or there's some replies going back and forth, you can change the status to ongoing. If you need to close an email, you can close the email, say this is resolved. So you can almost use this. A lot of new Forma customers are finding that the email correspondence tool is replacing a lot of their new Forma workflows. It lends to them getting rid of new Forma and going to the cloud to support their CA project management. Question always comes up, and I'll just throw this out there because I'm sure people are wondering. There is currently not an Outlook add-in for email correspondence. but I'll just say that it's a heavily requested feature from clients. So I think that Autodesk is probably investigating maybe a solution to a plugin directly to Outlook. I would hope. I'll just say that. Not getting myself into trouble. So correspondence, we have status notifications for bulk email. This just will tell you when you're uploading bulk emails to ACC, whether they were successful or partial or failed for any reason. The only time I've seen files fail is if the cloud's being finicky, or if for some reason a file is corrupt or the file length is beyond the 255 character limit for any reason. But this will give you an update as you're uploading bulk emails. Let's see, specified. Yeah, I already talked about the different statuses, so we can change the status to mark emails. Really, the benefit of this is if anything is ongoing, we can apply a due date to it, just like issues or RFIs or submittals. And once it's closed, we can generate reports and filter our emails based on the status. You can also tag if the email includes attachments, or if it has been labeled as private correspondence and not a public email, which would be able to be visible by all project members. So if it's private to you, you can filter that. And we can now view and add references to our emails via mobile. All right, so that was a lot for correspondence. Getting into RFIs, the additional fields and RFI types, so we are able to assign, project admins can assign the different additional fields to the RFI types to set as default. So if we wanted to include manager, watcher, due date, location, cost impact, schedule impact, those can all be added to an RFI type via mobile. So think of this as like, I don't know, I don't want to say it's like the template. I suppose it is similar to the template. So we can specify who those default types are within an RFI template and apply them. So when someone creates an RFI, if they choose the correct type in the field, it will already have the populated list of the appropriate fields filled in and save time. This one's kind of quick, but we do have the ability now to apply numbering to a bulk of submittals. So you can select your different submittals. My screenshot's a little blurry here, but we are able to apply our numbering conventions to multiple submittal objects. One feature that rolled out within the last year, if you're not already aware of this, in the past we had incremental numbering for our submittal IDs. So start at 1, go through 500. If go into the settings of your submittals now, you can change that numbering system to spec section numbering, which I think most people will default to spec section numbering. Your revision numbers or your number in the spec section can still be an increment. So if you're adding to, or if you have a spec section with multiple submittals, you can have your increments listed there, and it will add a hyphen and then a number at the end, but it's utilizing spec section numbering rather than just an incremental integer ID associated to your submittals. And then, yeah, I will point out, so even if you're using spec section numbering, submittal items will automatically be numbered with the lowest available number. So if you're using, or if you're populating based on spec section a new submittal, say it's 00001, then when you create your first submittal, it will be 00001-1. You are able to go in there once the submittal is created and change that number if you need to update it or match from an external, like your GC is labeling it, and you might not have -1, you might be supporting -4. You can change that increment, but automatically it will start with 1 and then number based on that. So either with incremental numbering or spec section, it will just start to grow that list that way, but you are able to edit it. Just making sure that if you are using a normal incremental number without spec section, you're probably going to run into duplicates and get an error message if you try to start changing a lot of numbers. So that's why this applying the numbering and updating the numbering is a nice feature update. And I should mention, you are required to be a submittal manager to override the auto-generated number. For submittal packages, we are able to filter the item list by those packages now. So if a submittal is associated to a package, we can filter it. Before, we'd have to go into our package view, click on the package, and view the submittals associated to it. Now, right from the main items page, we're able to filter by package, which is nice. And if it isn't assigned to a package, it will show up as unpackaged. So just a new option there for your filters. And I think this is one of my last, getting close to the end here. A direct link to a detail report in RFI notification. So before, when an RFI would be open, you would get your automatic notification that the RFI has been created to your email inbox, but it didn't have a link to an RFI report. Now we can include the RFI report as a live link, basically a public link that anyone can view the references associated to the RFI. So it gives us the report in a nice PDF format, and it includes it where we can open up the RFI and all of the attached references, the report essentially being generated from Autodesk. And by default, it expires after 30 days. All right, let me see, I might have two more. Schedule work planning. So if you're familiar with the schedule tools in ACC, you know that we cannot impact, or we cannot create a project schedule directly in ACC, but it does allow us to import a Microsoft project, a Primavera schedule, and we can view that and suggest changes to the schedule. Well, now we have this work plan that has been introduced to the schedule environment. So work plan will allow us to connect specific tasks, maybe detailed tasks, or assign them to specific people within a schedule line. So you are able to connect these to the schedule, or you can create completely separate work plans that are unrelated to the schedule for tracking things like milestones, progress, and tasks that are associated to users within the project. I find this is probably one of the best, if not the best, update within the last 6 months. When we're working through our projects, it's nice that we have mechanisms like the schedule to be able to view the schedule. But if, as a project manager, I want to detail different tasks that people are responsible for within any one schedule item, now we have the ability to create a work plan to set additional, kind of more granular timelines within a scheduled task and assign them to people. The detailed tasks do include start and end dates, work type, status, progress, any types of handoffs that are required by that task, and the trigger alerts when there is a mismatch between the plan and schedule. So if for any reason we're going beyond, or the work plan doesn't line up with the scheduled task, we will get a notification that we've exceeded the end date of the schedule, which potentially could lead to a suggested schedule change to your scheduler, or it might just indicate that you screwed up a due date on one of your work tasks. So this is just a screenshot of what that work plan starts to look like. On the left side, you'll see all of the companies in the project. We can create these timeline tasks and associate them to specific companies. We can link them. So if you look at the column steel, that is started by the steel structures. Let's assume that they're the supplier, and then concrete creations is the detailer. Well, we need to create the steel connections before our detailer can proceed. So that timeline links together. You can create different tasks, like I said, and this ultimately creates almost like a workflow, or not almost like, it creates a workflow chart for a specific work plan, and you can start to connect types of work like labor, delivery, install to those work types. And this is available to view via mobile. So this is rolled out if you update your ACC mobile app. Last thing here, just really quick, if you aren't already aware, within assets, so I think this came out back in, I want to say November, maybe earlier of last year of 2023. When you map assets from a Revit model, they are available or they're viewable in the 3D model view if you view the asset, and you can color code them based on the status of the asset. So if something has been delivered, installed, operational, you can update, you can make any status that you want and pick a color to apply to that color schema. This is viewable, and it has been viewable in the 3D model via those mapped assets to the Revit model. It is now available for us to view not only in 3D, so steel beam, but that will also be reflected in the 2D document where that steel beam is visible. So I know a lot of people get frustrated with the 3D views because you kind of have to isolate or section down 3D views to really understand what's going on with these different building assets. Now we can open up a particular 2D view and check the status of a mapped asset. This will only work when you're mapping those assets directly from the Revit model to the sheet. So if you were manually creating assets, then obviously it's not going to highlight a beam. You would have to manually create the line to represent the asset and then tie that to, well, it would already be, if you're creating the asset, that line would be tied to the asset, and I guess technically it would be viewable on the 2D document or 3D model. But the nice thing about this is it's connected to both 3D and 2D, but it will require mapping of RVT files. Whew. Wow, a lot more than I thought. So the thing I will leave you guys with is stay tuned for more updates. As Lori mentioned at the beginning of the call, we do monthly tech tips that it's usually me or someone on my team introducing a new feature or talking about a workflow that we found interesting. And those are usually quick sessions. But beyond what we provide at IMAGINiT, remember I shared earlier the roadmap, the public-facing roadmap of the feature releases and things that are coming out from Autodesk. So bookmark this page, check in on it every month or every couple of weeks just to see what's in progress or anything that has been recently released. And we will be seeing, probably, like I said, at the end of May, we'll probably see another blog post of feature updates. But there will be updates coming, and Autodesk does announce these things publicly. So if you're on their email list, you will get links to these blogs and these pages. But with anything, thank all of you for joining today. Hopefully you found some good features and some updates in ACC. As I mentioned, stay up to date. Try to keep your eye on those automated emails. Some of these features, yeah, they might not affect you, but other ones could be major updates and requests or feature requests that you've been hoping for years or months. Or maybe you haven't made the decision to go to ACC because it didn't have this one little thing that you're looking for that impacts your work. So keep up to speed on these feature updates. This is not like a desktop solution where we get a lot of updates within each calendar year. These things are rolling out really constantly every 2 months. So with that, I thank all of you. And if you do have questions, please reach out to your account manager if you're already a client of IMAGINiT. If not, you can reach out to us through IMAGINiT.com or the 800 number here at the bottom.